The hum of the spaceship was deafening, a low, constant vibration that rattled through the alien prisoners' bones. One by one, they were dragged from their holding cells and thrown onto the massive metal floor of the human vessel.
Is that correct?
The cold, polished walls reflected harsh white light that made every shadow sharp and threatening. The aliens looked around, their strange eyes darting nervously. Some had scales that shimmered in the light, others had skin that seemed almost translucent, glowing faintly. Tentacles twitched, claws scraped against metal, and wings folded tightly against trembling bodies. None of them spoke, words would not make a difference here. They all knew why they were here, they had been captured in the latest human-initiated skirmish, and none of them expected to live. At the far end of the chamber, two humans stood silently. Captain Mara, her tall frame and confident posture commanding immediate attention, surveyed the room. Her dark hair was tied back in a practical braid, and her piercing eyes moved with precision from one alien to the next. She said nothing, but every alien instinctively felt the weight of her authority. Beside her, Lieutenant Rel adjusted his uniform nervously. Though cautious and observant, his keen eyes missed nothing. The tension in his shoulders suggested he had seen far worse than this, yet he respected the captain's unspoken command. The prisoners shuffled, their multi-jointed limbs creaking as they adjusted to the hard metal floor. They whispered to each other in languages humans could not understand. Some hissed threats, others begged silently, and a few simply stood frozen, hoping invisibility or stillness might save them. Captain Mara finally broke the silence. Her voice was low but carried clearly across the room. "Open your coats," she said. A murmur ran through the aliens. Coats. Their hearts pounded. Some of them had concealed weapons or hidden tools, things they had carried for survival in the human-controlled sectors. The order made no sense. Humans never gave mercy. Never. For a long moment, silence reigned. The aliens waited for the inevitable attack. A flash, a command, a laser, but none came. Instead, Captain Mara walked slowly down the line, her eyes scanning each prisoner carefully. Lieutenant Rel followed, taking notes on a small holographic pad, his brow furrowed. The aliens were unsure whether to feel relief or fear. Was this a trick? The air was thick with anticipation, every heartbeat echoing in their heads like a drum. The humans' calmness was unnerving. They did not raise weapons, they did not shout. They merely watched, observing the prisoners with clinical precision. One of the smaller aliens, a creature with 4 arms and green scales, whispered, "Why are they not attacking?" Captain Mara paused in front of a particularly tall alien with wings folded tightly behind its back. She tilted her head slightly, as if assessing not just the alien's possessions but its very nature. "Interesting," she said quietly. The alien flinched. "We will see." Lieutenant Rel tapped something on his holographic pad, sending a series of signals flickering across the room. The aliens did not understand the language, but they could feel the tension shift slightly. Humans were always unpredictable, but this was something new. The room hummed, filled with the sound of anxious breathing, whispered alien threats, and the soft mechanical noise of the spaceship itself. Each alien was trapped in a web of fear and uncertainty. They had braced for pain, torture, or death. Yet, death did not come. Captain Mara finally spoke again. "Do not move unless instructed. This is only the beginning." Her eyes swept the room, sharp and calculating. "Your actions will decide what happens next." For the first time, a seed of doubt crept into the aliens' minds. Maybe they could survive this, maybe they could even outsmart the humans. But that thought was fleeting, swallowed quickly by the fear that had brought them here. And then, just as the aliens began to relax, Captain Mara's voice cut through the chamber once more. "Tamor." The aliens exchanged nervous glances. Evaluation. They had been expecting execution. They had been expecting pain. Evaluation was something different. Something they could not predict. As the humans turned and left the chamber, the prisoners were left alone in the stark white light. Whispers filled the air, speculation and fear blending into a single, tense hum. None of them noticed the small camera blinking in the corner, capturing every detail. Humans never did anything without reason. The game had only just begun. The chamber was silent except for the hum of the spaceship's engines, but the tension inside was electric. The aliens had spent the night in uneasy rest, each shadow and echo making their hearts race. They didn't sleep much. Fear had a way of keeping creatures alert, no matter the species. When morning came, the aliens were herded into a larger observation room. The space was massive, with glass walls showing endless corridors of the human ship beyond. The floor beneath them vibrated slightly with the movement of the ship, and holographic screens floated in midair, displaying alien symbols, star charts, and strange readings that none of the prisoners could decipher. Captain Mara stood at the front, her expression unreadable as always. Lieutenant Rel hovered near her, fingers moving quickly across a small holographic console. The aliens could feel the humans' intelligence radiating from them. It was sharp, precise, and terrifying. "You have opened your coats yesterday," Mara said, her voice calm but commanding. "Today, we begin the test. It is not a matter of strength. It is a matter of intelligence, observation, and adaptability." The aliens stiffened. A test? Not death, not torture, but a test. Some of them relaxed slightly, while others were more suspicious than ever. They had learned one rule quickly: nothing the humans did was simple or predictable. "Step forward, one at a time," Mara continued. "We will assess your capabilities." The first alien, a tall creature with iridescent wings and 4 slender arms, hesitated. Its wings twitched nervously. As it approached the holographic table in the center of the room, holograms projected in the air, displaying strange, alien artifacts. Lines of energy connected the items, forming patterns that the alien could barely comprehend. "Identify the function," Mara said. Immediately. As one alien after another was tested, a strange pattern began to form. The humans were not simply looking for correct answers, they were watching how the aliens thought. Among the prisoners, whispers began. Tentacles brushed together, claws tapped nervously on the metal floor. "They're not testing our weapons or strength," hissed one green-scaled alien. "They want to see how we think." A translucent alien with glowing skin shivered. "But why? Humans never do things without reason. There must be a trap. And spread it." Because then came the part no alien expected, a simulated emergency. Lights flashed red, alarms blared, and a holographic projection of the ship's hull showed cracks appearing, threatening to release vacuum into the room. "Your task," Mara said calmly, "is to save yourselves and stabilize the environment. You may use any of the tools you brought in your coats." Lieutenant Rel observed silently, noting every movement. His eyes narrowed when he noticed one of the smaller aliens, normally timid, stepping forward and helping another trapped prisoner without a second thought. "Interesting," he muttered under his breath. Captain Mara's gaze swept across the room. She wasn't watching for mistakes, she was watching for character. Courage, intelligence, cooperation. The aliens didn't yet realize it, but humans valued traits far more than raw power. By the time the simulation ended, the room was filled with smoke, sparks, and exhausted, trembling aliens. Some had succeeded, some had failed. None had expected the humans to evaluate morality and instinct along with intelligence. "Enough," Mara said, her voice cutting through the haze. "You have survived the first test. Not all of you succeeded, but all of you survived. That is unusual." The aliens exchanged glances. Surviving a human evaluation was something no species they knew had ever done. Respect, fear, and confusion mixed in their minds. Humans were not invincible warriors, they were more dangerous, cunning, unpredictable, and judging them in ways they could not anticipate. 1-0. Th. And yet, the prisoners began to notice subtle shifts. Captain Mara smiled faintly, almost imperceptibly, as she turned to leave. "Tomorrow," she said, "we see how well you work together. Alone, you survive by chance. Together, you may survive by design." The Lieutenant Rel made a note on his pad and spoke quietly to Mara. "They are adapting faster than I expected. But will they trust each other?" Mara's eyes glinted. "That, Lieutenant, is the true test." T. And as the aliens tried to rest, questions swirled in their minds. Were they prisoners, or subjects in a game they could not yet comprehend? Would survival depend on intelligence, morality, cooperation, or something even stranger? For the humans, the test had only just begun. The aliens had learned one important truth: humans were nothing like they expected. They were not mindless killers, nor simple soldiers. They were clever, calculating, and terrifying in ways the prisoners could barely comprehend. And yet, despite that knowledge, fear still ruled their hearts. When the alarm sounded in the holding chamber, the aliens froze. Red lights flashed violently, bathing the walls in an urgent glow. The ship's hum had deepened, vibrating through metal and bone alike. Panic swept the prisoners like wildfire. Some shouted, others scrambled blindly, and one with wings unfurled in terror, bumping into the wall and hissing sharply. From the shadows, a figure emerged, quiet, deliberate, and determined. It was one of the smaller prisoners, a four-limbed, emerald-scaled alien with narrow eyes and a reputation for cunning. It had spent the previous day studying the humans' movements, memorizing patterns, noting which of them watched the others most closely. Its mind raced. This could be the chance for freedom. The alien crept toward the exit, silently signaling a few others to follow. They were slow, cautious, moving like shadows over the cold metal floor. But the humans were not asleep to their intentions. Captain Mara's voice echoed through the chamber, calm and chilling. "You think you can escape," she said. The words were soft but carried the weight of steel. The small alien froze, glancing around. Humans did not shout. Humans did not run. Humans observed. That was the most terrifying thing of all. Lieutenant Rel stepped forward, tapping his console. A holographic map of the chamber appeared in the air, showing every movement of every alien prisoner. The small escape group's actions flickered in red on the display, highlighted for easy tracking. "Captain," Rel said quietly, "they're attempting a break. But they're too predictable." Mara nodded once, her expression unreadable. "Let them try. Observation is the true test." The escape attempt was chaotic but clever. The smaller aliens used hidden gadgets from their coats, tools designed to manipulate locks, hack small systems, or create brief distractions. Sparks flew from one console as a green-scaled alien tried to short-circuit a door mechanism. Hissing and shouting filled the room. Yet every move was countered. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the human superior planning became clear. Force fields activated, pathways shifted, and automated drones swooped down to block potential routes. The escapees froze, realizing that every door they opened had been anticipated, every gadget they deployed accounted for. Still, one thing surprised the humans. The escape group was not only clever, they were adaptable. When a drone swooped down to block them, one alien lifted another onto its shoulders, using its strength to vault over the obstacle. When a door slammed shut, another used a hidden energy pulse to temporarily disable the lock. Once upon a time. Rel adjusted his holographic pad. They are clever, yes. But they do not yet understand the true test. Predictability is still their weakness. And then it happened. In the chaos of the attempted break, one alien, usually timid, often ignored, made a choice no one expected. It moved not toward freedom, but toward a fellow prisoner trapped under falling debris from a simulated ceiling collapse. Without hesitation, it used its energy pulse to lift the heavy metal beams, saving the other alien. The room fell silent for a moment. Humans noticed immediately. Mara's eyes glinted. Courage. Compassion. Cooperation. Even among predators, these traits emerge. The escape attempt failed, as it had been meant to. The humans did not punish the prisoners with death, but the lesson was unmistakable: predictability and selfishness would not save them. Only intelligence, adaptability, and moral instinct would. The prisoners were escorted back to their holding area, shaken, exhausted, and more aware than ever of human cunning. Some whispered in fear, others in grudging admiration. They saw everything, hissed the green-scaled alien. Everything we did. They knew what we would do before we did it. And yet, for the first time, a spark of respect, or perhaps curiosity, appeared among them. Humans were not merely strong. They were thinkers. Strategists. Observers. Captain Mara addressed them before leaving. Her voice was soft, almost conversational, yet it carried authority. Today, you learned that strength alone is meaningless. Tomorrow, we test your ability to work together. That is where the true trial begins. In the quiet corners of the chamber, a few prisoners began to discuss plans, not of escape, but of cooperation. If survival depended on working together, then alliances might form. Trust, they realized, would be as valuable as any weapon. And somewhere, Captain Mara's eyes glimmered with a quiet satisfaction. The game was far from over, and the humans' true intentions remained hidden. The aliens had learned only a fraction of what lay ahead. The real challenge, the one that would test loyalty, courage, and morality, was yet to come. The small camera blinking in the corner captured every movement, every whispered plan, every flicker of fear and courage. Humans never acted without purpose. They would see everything. And in the days to come, the aliens would discover that survival was about more than escape. It was about learning, adapting, and understanding the true power of humanity. The aliens woke to a silence that was heavier than any alarm. The ship's lights were dimmed, casting long shadows across the cold metal floor. Yesterday's failed escape lingered in their minds. Some shivered at the memory, others clenched claws or wings in frustration. But there was no time to dwell. Captain Mara's voice soon crackled through the chamber's speakers, calm yet commanding. Today, you work together. Alone, you survive by chance. Together, you may survive by design. Follow the path, or perish. The aliens' hearts sank. Work together. They were species bred for independence, for competition, even for predation. Cooperation was foreign, and dangerous. They eyed one another warily, suspicion in every glance. Could they trust even a single one of the other prisoners? From the shadows, Mara and Lieutenant Rel observed silently. Every movement, every hesitation, every glance would be noted. Today's test was not about strength or speed, it was about choice, judgment, and unity under pressure. The chamber transformed. Walls shifted, doors slid open, revealing a massive simulation room. It stretched farther than the aliens could see, filled with obstacles, traps, and puzzles. Lights flickered, holographic readouts shimmered, and the air buzzed with tension. A loud, mechanical voice echoed. Objective: stabilize the core, neutralize threats, and secure the vessel. Failure results in termination. The words hung heavy in the air. Termination. The aliens froze. Was this real? A simulation? Humans had already proven that fear alone was a tool. Now, it seemed, they wanted to see if the aliens could overcome it. The green-scaled alien, the one who had tried the escape before, took a step forward. We have no choice, it hissed to a winged companion. We must cooperate, or die. And so they began. The first obstacle was a chasm of pulsing energy. Across it, a series of platforms hovered in midair, each flickering and unstable. Alone, the aliens would have hesitated, trying to leap across with deadly risk. But together, they formed chains, lifting one another, helping wings or tentacles grasp platforms. A creature with 4 legs and glowing eyes coordinated timing, calling instructions in a language others barely understood, but instinctively followed. Yet danger never slept. Holographic traps sprung to life, walls surged with energy, forcing them to dodge and react. Some aliens panicked, stepping back into harm's way. Sparks flew as one creature's tail brushed a high-voltage panel. A hiss of pain echoed. Captain Mara watched, her arms crossed. "Observe," she murmured to Lieutenant Rel. "They panic, but some adapt. That is, encouraging." And then came the moral dilemma. A section of the room collapsed into chaos, revealing a chamber filled with dangerous gas. One alien prisoner was trapped inside, coughing, struggling to breathe. Another path opened, a chance to reach safety. The aliens had a choice: save their comrade, risking their own lives, or continue toward the objective and survive. The other prisoners hesitated, some following, some watching. The winged alien finally flapped forward, aiding the rescue. A moment of coordination, of shared risk, rippled across the group. They were no longer predators or prisoners, they were a team, bound by fear, hope, and instinctive morality. Captain Mara's eyes gleamed. "Impressive," she said softly. "They adapt. They cooperate. They survive not by chance, but by choice." But the what? "Focus," the emerald-scaled alien shouted, surprising even itself. Others followed, moving with calculated precision, voices overlapping in a chaotic but coherent rhythm. Slowly, piece by piece, the energy matrix stabilized. The room's lights stopped flickering. Alarms ceased. Silence returned. The A.M. and the forces. And tomorrow, the true evaluation begins. Not of your strength, not even of your cooperation, but of your willingness to embrace what it means to be human. The owl. As the chamber doors closed, the prisoners realized the humans' tests were far from over. Every step had been preparation, every simulation a lesson, every choice a calculation. They had learned to cooperate, to survive, to trust, and yet the humans' ultimate goal remained hidden. The aliens barely slept. Even when the chamber lights dimmed and the ship hummed in quiet rhythm, their minds raced with questions. Yesterday had tested their unity, yesterday had tested their morality. But today, something felt different. There was a weight in the air, an anticipation that made even the strongest scales tremble. When the doors finally opened, the aliens were escorted into the observation hall once more. The space was larger than before, stretching into darkness with suspended platforms and panels flickering with alien symbols. Captain Mara stood at the far end, arms crossed, her face calm and unreadable. Lieutenant Rel's fingers danced over a holographic pad, the lights reflecting in his sharp, calculating eyes. "You have survived the previous tests," Mara said, her voice carrying clearly across the room. "You have demonstrated intelligence, cooperation, and moral judgment. You are unusual." The alien stiffened. Unusual? That was a strange word, almost too vague, almost too personal. But, Mara continued, stepping forward, survival is not the point. Understanding is. Observation is meaningless without purpose. A murmur ran through the prisoners. Understanding? Purpose? Humans rarely explained. Usually, they acted, executed, and expected obedience. The aliens exchanged worried glances. Something was coming. Something beyond physical survival. Rel tapped his pad. "Captain, they are responding as predicted, but slowly. Their trust is fragile." Immediately. The room. "Do you recognize this?" Mara asked. The alien's eyes widened. Allies? Humans did not make allies lightly. What was this, an offer? A test? A small, timid alien, one who had barely spoken in the previous challenges, stepped forward. Are we being judged to fight? To serve? Mar. The room dimmed, and a holographic projection appeared at the center. It showed an alien race approaching human colonies with overwhelming force. The humans defending it were vastly outnumbered, their ships battered, their cities in ruins. The aliens in the chamber could see the desperation, the stakes, the lives hanging in the balance. The aliens gasped. Join humans? Fight with humans? Some of them were terrified. Others were angry. How could they consider trusting the species that had captured them, tested them, and almost killed them repeatedly? But then came the first proof. A projection showed a human pilot sacrificing herself to save a colony, dodging impossible odds, risking life for others. Another projection revealed a soldier manually shutting down a failing power core to prevent destruction, saving hundreds at the cost of his own life. The alien. Immediately. Fear surged among the prisoners. Some looked at one another with suspicion. Who would betray whom? Who would act selfishly? Who would show true character? Its courage sparked something among the others. Slowly, one by one, aliens stepped forward, pledging cooperation. Some were hesitant. Some whispered doubts. But the seed of alliance had been planted. The aliens exchanged glances, a mixture of fear, excitement, and reluctant respect. For the first time, they understood that survival was not merely about escaping humans, or even defeating enemies. It was about embracing values far beyond mere instinct. Lieutenant R. Mara's. And the revelation was just the beginning. The alien prisoners had never felt a fear like this. The humans had shown them tests of intelligence, morality, and courage, but nothing prepared them for this. The ship's alarms blared, echoing across the corridors. Red lights flashed violently, throwing jagged shadows across walls and machinery. Outside, through massive observation windows, the alien fleet could be seen, ships dark and jagged, weapons charging, intent on annihilation. The humans were outnumbered, but the crew moved with precision, calm under impossible pressure. Captain Mara stood at the bridge's center, her gaze unwavering, surveying the battlefield. Aliens, she said, her voice steady yet commanding, today, you fight not just for survival, but for the right to stand beside humanity. Follow instructions. Trust your instincts, and each other. Any hesitation could cost lives. The aliens exchanged nervous glances. Trust humans. Trust each other. Yesterday they had learned cooperation, today they had to live it under fire. Lieutenant Rel tapped his console. They've breached the outer perimeter, Captain. Shields at 50%. Mara nod. The aliens, now bonded through shared tests and moral choices, moved alongside humans. One with wings unfurled, propelling itself through zero-gravity corridors to secure critical panels. Another, four-limbed and emerald-scaled, coordinated energy shields with human engineers, blocking volleys of plasma fire that would have destroyed the hull. The first wave of alien attackers breached the outer dock. Explosions rocked the ship. Sparks rained down, fires ignited, and alarm lights turned the corridors into a chaotic storm of red. Humans fought with calculated efficiency, their movements precise and lethal. Even so, the enemy pressed relentlessly. Alien ships rammed and fired, testing every defense, every tactic. Panic threatened to spread. One human soldier was pinned under debris, trapped in a corridor. Without hesitation, a timid alien, once overlooked in the tests, rushed forward, lifting the heavy metal plate with incredible strength and saving the soldier. Humans watched, amazed. This small creature had risked everything for another species it had never trusted. Captured. Then came the critical moment. The enemy flagship, a colossal vessel bristling with weapons, entered striking range. A direct assault would destroy human forces in minutes. Mara turned to the aliens. This is it. Follow my lead. Execute the plan exactly, or we all die. The plan unfolded. Humans led a diversion, drawing the flagship's fire, while the aliens infiltrated weak points in the enemy's formation. The emerald-scaled alien coordinated a simultaneous attack on power conduits, destabilizing shields and exposing critical systems. The winged alien and two others created energy disruptions that allowed human fighters to penetrate the flagship's defenses. Explosion. In the midst of chaos, a human pilot was trapped in a fighter under fire. Without hesitation, the green-scaled alien swooped in, using speed and agility to shield the craft and guide it to safety. Humans, witnessing the act, realized the aliens were no longer prisoners, they were comrades, allies, and partners in battle. At the bridge, Mara and Rel observed the battlefield. They are exceeding expectations, Rel said, his voice tinged with disbelief. The flagship's core began to overload. Mara issued final orders. Now. Focus all combined power on the core. Humans and aliens together, synchronize or perish. And. The alley. Lieutenant Rel spoke quietly, almost to himself, they may surpass expectations entirely. Mara nodded. The alley. The galaxy would never be the same.